Valeria, what the hell? Your pictures are everywhere. Oh my God, have you seen Twitter? Valeria, call me now. It's urgent. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Message after message, notification after notification. My heart pounded as I reached for it, still groggy from sleep. The second I saw the texts, my breath hitched. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. With shaky fingers, I clicked on the first link someone had sent me, and in an instant my blood turned ice cold. My private photos, online, everywhere. Intimate, raw, personal pictures, ones I had taken in moments of trust, believing they were safe. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth as I scrolled in horror. They weren't just on one website. No, they had spread like wildfire, Twitter, Instagram, shady forums filled with disgusting comments. I felt sick. The room spun around me. My skin burned with humiliation, but my body was cold, so cold. My ears rang as I tried to process what I was looking at. Strangers were dissecting my body like I was some kind of product. Men I didn't know were sharing the pictures, laughing, making disgusting remarks. My friends were texting me, some panicked, some pitying, some pretending to be supportive but secretly enjoying the scandal. It felt like I had been stripped naked and thrown onto a public stage for the world to devour. But deep inside the chaos of my mind, one thought cut through the noise. There was only one person who had these photos. Only one person who had access to them. Harrison Blackwood, my ex-husband. The same man who had once told me he loved me more than life itself. The same man who had sworn to protect me. The same man who had spent years breaking me down, piece by piece. I should have seen this coming. I met Harrison when I was 24. Young, ambitious, full of dreams. He was charming, successful, and devastatingly attractive. The kind of man who could command a room without even trying. And when he looked at me, it felt like I was the only woman in the world. I fell hard, too hard. At first, our relationship was like something out of a romance novel. Lavish dates, expensive gifts, whispered promises of forever. When he proposed a year later, I said yes without hesitation, ignoring the tiny voice in the back of my mind. The one that sensed the danger. It started small. A possessive hand on my waist when I talked to another man. A casual comment about how I should dress more modestly. A request for my social media passwords, just so we don't have secrets between us. I told myself it was normal, that it was just love. But it got worse. Soon he wanted full control of my life, my phone, my finances, my friendships. If I argued, he made me feel guilty. Why are you overreacting, babe? Why do you always make me out to be the bad guy? I started doubting myself, apologizing for things I hadn't even done, losing myself in him. And then the cheating. I found out by accident. His phone lighting up in the middle of the night with messages from someone named Katrina. I still remember how my hands trembled as I scrolled through them. The pictures, the videos, the things he had said to her. My heart shattered, but when I confronted him, he just laughed. "So what?" he said, shrugging. "You're still here, aren't you?" That night, I made a decision. I was done. I filed for divorce. Harrison didn't take it well. He begged, he cried, he made promises. When he realized his words meant nothing to me anymore, his mask slipped completely. "If you leave me, I'll ruin you." I thought he was bluffing, but now, staring at the horror he had unleashed on me, I realized just how far he was willing to go. The panic clawed at my chest, but I refused to let it take over. I would not fall apart. Not for him, not for anyone. I inhaled sharply, wiped my face, and steadied my breath. Harrison thought he could break me. He thought he could destroy me. Oh, Harrison, you stupid, stupid man. He wanted war, then war he would get. The first move was obvious. I called my lawyer. A lawsuit was inevitable, but that was just the beginning. I needed to hit him where it hurt the most. His ego, his money, his reputation. I wiped my tears, squared my shoulders, and opened my laptop. If the world was going to see these photos, they were going to see the full story. I started typing. Harrison had used the internet as a weapon. Now I was going to turn it into his executioner. I hit post. And then I watched the world explode. Thousands of likes, tens of thousands of shares, comments pouring in so fast I could barely keep up. People weren't just angry, they were furious. Women, men, journalists, influencers, everyone was talking about it. My story wasn't just a scandal. It was a movement. And then the messages started rolling in. Some were from other women. "He did this to me too, Valeria. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for speaking up. I was too scared to—" I sat there, reading each message, my anger burning hotter and hotter. This wasn't just about me anymore. Harrison had been doing this for years. Women came forward with their own horror stories. He had cheated, manipulated, threatened. Some had signed NDAs after breakups. Others had been paid off to keep quiet. A few had even lost their jobs because of him. And suddenly, it wasn't just me versus Harrison anymore. It was all of us. And the internet was eating it up. By the end of the day, the hashtag #HarrisonBlackwoodExposed was trending worldwide. People were digging through his past, uncovering everything. Every scandal, every lawsuit, every dirty business deal he had paid to keep buried. His empire, the one he had spent years building, was starting to crack. And then, just as I was taking a breath, my phone vibrated with a message. "Unknown number. You need to stop this. Now." I smirked. "Oh, Harrison, you stupid, stupid man." I typed back, my fingers steady. "Or what? You'll leak more? Go ahead. The world already knows. The more you try, the worse it'll get for you." A full minute passed before the scene notification appeared. I imagined him sitting in his penthouse, his jaw clenched, his eyes wild with panic. He had thought I would break, that I would beg him to make it stop. Instead, I was laughing. But this wasn't over. Not yet. I had one last move to play, the one that would end him completely. And for that, I needed to see him face to face. The bar smelled like whiskey, money, and arrogance, the stench of men like Harrison Blackwood. I walked in slowly, deliberately, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The dim lighting cast golden shadows on the polished walls, the air thick with quiet conversations. This place was his domain, the kind of exclusive club where billionaires closed deals and whispered about their latest conquests. But tonight I was the predator. And there he was, sitting in his usual booth, whiskey in hand, posture stiff. He looked exactly how I wanted him to, like a man who was losing control. His empire had started crumbling the moment I pressed post. His investors had pulled out, his business partners had distanced themselves, and the media had torn him apart. But he still didn't know what was coming next. I approached his table, my fingers grazing the silk of my dress. I could see the flicker of surprise in his eyes before he masked it with that same arrogant smirk he had always worn, the one he thought made him untouchable. "Valeria?" His voice was careful, neutral. "I didn't expect you here." I slid into the seat across from him, crossing my legs slowly, watching as his gaze flickered downward before he quickly looked away. "Didn't you?" I tilted my head, lips curling just slightly. "I thought I'd check in, see how you're handling things." His jaw clenched. "You've made your point." I laughed softly, stirring my drink with my straw. "Oh, sweetheart, I haven't even started." He exhaled sharply, setting his glass down with a little too much force. "You need to stop," he said, his voice low. "You think you're winning, but I'll come back from this. I always do." I leaned forward, my voice dropping into something dangerous. "No, you won't. You made one fatal mistake, Harrison." My smile widened. "You underestimated me." His fingers twitched. I saw it, the panic behind his controlled expression. "You made some noise online," he said, trying to sound unaffected. "Got some people to hate me, but this will pass." He smirked, though it didn't reach his eyes. "It always does." I sighed dramatically, reaching into my bag and pulling out a folder. "You poor thing," I murmured, sliding it across the table. "You still don't get it, do you?" He hesitated before picking it up, his fingers tightening around the edge. Then, as his eyes flickered over the contents, his entire body stiffened. His face drained of color. "You—" His voice was barely a whisper. "You wouldn't—" I smiled. "Oh, but I would. Inside that folder was his ruin, financial documents, evidence of tax fraud, embezzlement, and illegal offshore accounts. Real crimes. The kind that wouldn't just ruin him socially, they would ruin him legally. "I told you, Harrison," I said, leaning in just close enough for him to feel the weight of my words. "I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to end you." His hands clenched the pages so tightly they crumpled. His breath was shallow, his chest rising and falling too quickly. "What do you want?" His voice cracked just slightly. I sat back, savoring the moment. "3 things," I said, counting them off on my fingers. 1. You sign everything over to me. The house, the cars, the investments. Consider it compensation for what you put me through." His jaw twitched, but he didn't argue. He knew he was trapped. 2. You issue a public statement. Admit to everything. Apologize. Tell the world exactly what you did. His fingers trembled. He swallowed hard. And 3? His voice was hoarse. I leaned in one last time, my lips curling into a slow, victorious smile. "You disappear." Silence stretched between us. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then after what felt like an eternity, he gave a slow, defeated nod. I stood, smoothing my dress, feeling lighter than I had in years. I had won, not just the battle, but the entire damn war. Harrison Blackwood had tried to break me. But in the end, he was the one left shattered. And as I walked out of the bar, head held high, I knew one thing for certain. I had never felt more alive.